منظمة الأمم المتحدة للطفولة واحدة من أهم الأهداف بتاعتها هي حماية وتعزيز حقوق الأطفال والشباب، وده بيكون في كل بقعة في العالم. النهاردة هيبقى معانا السيد جيريمي هوبكنز ممثل المنظمة، وهنتكلم على أهداف وأولويات اليونيسيف. أهلا بيك وشرفتنا. أحب أول ما هنبتدي أنا عايز أعرف دور يونيسيف في مصر. بتعمل إيه في مصر؟
So we have been in Egypt since 1952. We are here at the invitation of government, and as you know, UNICEF is a United Nations agency and therefore is subject to the General Assembly of the United Nations. We are here to, let's say, support the government fulfill its commitments to children and child rights, and that is best captured in the Convention of the Rights of the Child, which was is about it's from 1989, 1990. Egypt was one of the first countries to sign it and ratify it. And that, if you like, is the TOR of UNICEF in any country, including in Egypt.
أوكي، بتعملوا إيه هنا بقى؟ يعني إيه البرامج أو الأهداف بتاعتكم إنكم تساعدوا الأطفال اللي موجودين في مصر؟
So I start with the Convention of the Rights of the Child because that outlines the parameters of our work. Now, in any given country, Egypt, we're talking about Egypt today, we are here to assist the government fulfill its obligations. What does that mean? It means in all the sectors where children have a stake, and for example, the obvious ones are health and education and nutrition and social protection and child protection, and the different ministries that work on these different components of what makes a child's life and a set of child's rights. We provide support either at policy level to ensure that policies are up to international standards and are up to the standards that the Egyptian government has committed to.
Okay.
And we often, and we do in Egypt quite a lot, help pilot and bring out new ideas at the field level, if you like. So, for example, if the Egyptian government wants to pursue a policy of inclusiveness of disabled children in the mainstream education system, we will bring in international expertise. We will demonstrate how that works. We will pilot, let's say, in many, in a couple of hundred schools. And we develop the working documents and the training and the orientation, and perhaps feed into policy discussions, and then we hand that over to government to roll out. That's so we do that across all the sectors where we work.
أنا عندي سؤال وأنا حابب إن أنا أعرفه منك، هو إشمعنى اليونيسيف هي أشهر واحدة أو أشهر منظمة موجودة في العالم؟
Well, I think we have a beautiful and noble mandate. We are here to ensure that every child can fulfill his or her rights to survive, thrive, develop, and be protected. I think that the mandates around children are less sensitive. They are also strike more at the heart of everybody who
Is that
engages.
why you're famous? هو أنتوا عشان كده مشهورين إن أنتوا يعني بتعنوا بالطفولة فعشان كده الشهرة، ولا في حاجة تانية؟
I think that's part of the reason.
Okay.
I think that the other set of reasons is that we do our job well. So we have a long history, and we're present in 190 countries. So we are, let's say, more present than many others in almost every country. I think that our image and our logo and our name is very, very well known. But why is it well known?
Yes.
Because we do our job well, and we are working for children, and nobody challenges the need to work for children. A child is a child everywhere at any time and needs the same kind of protection, support and rights everywhere.
طيب أنت قلت حاجة على الحماية، والحماية دي حاجة مهمة بالنسبة للأطفال. طيب أنتوا بتعملوا إيه لحماية الأطفال، وما معنى حماية الأطفال في مصر؟
So Egypt is a middle-income country, and therefore the systems here are quite sophisticated. And we are able to sort of invest in those national systems for the protection of children. There are approximately 40 million children in this country.
40 مليون طفل في البلد.
Yes.
Wow.
So let's say our mandate of support and our constituents who are children are a significant number a significant number of millions. So protection, let's say, if you like, has two elements to it. One we call social protection, and that is ensuring that the poorer children, the more vulnerable children, have a set of safety nets and protective measures that their families and they can call on to prevent them from being further exposed to protection violations. Now, that is, what does that mean in Egypt? In Egypt, we have an amazing program, which is this Takaful and Karama, which reaches 5 million households. And that's estimated to cover about 15 million people. Approximately half, just for the sake of argument, might be children there. That is, it's the right of every child in the world to have that kind of protection if the child needs it and here her family.
ممكن توضح لنا ده بصورة أقوى يعني أو بصورة أوضح؟ اديني مثال على حماية الأطفال.
So as I was saying, there's social protection, then there is what we call child protection, and that is where we have these more serious issues and violations that we have to deal with. So a child may be exposed to a neglect or violence or abuse or discrimination. And that is where you need a robust case management system in the country. And that is what you are asking what UNICEF does. So we support the government's case management system to ensure that if a child is exposed to a specific violation, is being beaten or is being abused or is on the street.
ده زي خط نجدة الأطفال.
Yeah, so the hotline, the child hotline. Yeah, the child hotline is something that UNICEF has invested in with the National Council for Childhood and Motherhood for many years. And that is a hotline that allows, and it's well known, this hotline now, I think really all credit to people who've been involved in that. Yes, exactly.
16,000 تقريبا.
Yes, exactly. So if you have a concern about a child, it might be your child or it might be a child in the neighborhood that you've seen, or you're worried that there is an abuse going on, you call the hotline. And then there is I've been to the hotline center because we support it. The hotline center has a number of qualified sort of receptionists who will direct the call to the right part of National Council, and from there perhaps to other services in order to respond either urgently or more sort of in a more sustained way, depending on what the precise violation is.
ده حاجة أنتوا بتدعموها، خط نجدة الطفل.
Most definitely, yes, we support it. We are always looking to ensure that our support to government is sustainable and sustained, which means, yes, we can provide in-the-moment support on a matter of urgency, but then it is incumbent on us and the government partner to sort of build the budgeting of these kind of services into their plans over the long term and advocate with the Ministry of Finance to be budgeted so that it cannot be UNICEF that always supports, but we can help bring in the expertise and the policy work and set things up and then hand over.
من تجربة شخصية في مساعدة الأطفال، ده كان حاجة يعني فعالة ومهمة. بالنسبة للتعليم، طيب المتسربين من التعليم، بما أن مصر عندها نسبة عالية من الأمية، ساعدتوا بإيه في التعليم والمتسربين من التعليم؟
So illiteracy is a challenge in Egypt. It's a challenge in every country. I must say the illiteracy rates are decreasing, which is good. Our focus is on...
Do you have a percentage? عندك نسبة?
I don't know the percentage. Because you see, our focus is on children. Right? And once you become an adult and you missed schooling, then yes, indeed, you might be illiterate. And that is, we don't focus on adults, we focus on children. So our focus, but of course, I mean, illiteracy remains a very legitimate challenge and something we need to work on. I would say within the education sector, meaning the primary and secondary, the under 18s, we are, really pleased that there is close to 100% enrollment rate in primary education. Our concerns are in secondary education, where you start to get dropout, you start to get children who don't enroll. Normally, this is a coping mechanism because of family pressures, poverty, these kind of issues. Sometimes it's related to early marriage, sometimes it's related to female genital mutilation. There's a number of reasons for this. Now, the work that UNICEF has been doing over the decades, I would say, is to support the ministry on the quality. The Ministry of Education has done a tremendous job in getting all children into primary school, more or less, and 50-50, meaning the gender parity has been achieved at primary level. The challenges are in this at secondary level. There are, though, children who are out of school, and those children will eventually become illiterate adults if we don't act now. We are concerned about children with disabilities.
هل عند اليونيسيف مشروع خاص بالمتسربين في التعليم؟
We work on 2 or 3 different parts of the program to ensure that children get into school. That is our objective.
Okay.
So, but I mean, it's still an answer to your question. So there are community schools.
Community school. المدرسة المجتمعية هو ده اللي أنا كنت عايز أسأل عليه.
That is a model that is under the auspices of the Ministry of Education, where children who have either missed the right year to enroll or live far away from a school, or the parents have different reasons for not having been able to facilitate their child to go to a school, a regular school. These community schools are a model that's quite effective. It requires slightly different teaching.
And also for immigrants as well. وبالنسبة للمهاجرين كمان. Are they entitled to go to the community schools too, right?
It's a different discussion.
ده حاجة تانية.
But they also call them community schools. But I'm talking about the community schools under the auspices of the Ministry of Education.
يعني في نوعين من المدارس المجتمعية.
Yeah. But so we want to ensure that children who, for whatever reason, have missed the opportunity to enroll at the right age still have access to school, so that they don't become illiterate. We also focus on the quality of teaching, the importance of staying abreast of change. And we've moved into a digital era where there needs to be at least elements of digital skilling, let's say, through the education system. And then, of course, we saw during the corona pandemic that Egypt was a little bit ahead of many countries and was able to continue, to some degree, education through digital means. If I can go back to disabled children with disabilities, they form the majority of children who have not been enrolled in school, and they are, the estimation is over 1 million at least, right? We have been working with the Ministry of Education to in 400 or 500 schools to show how to integrate disabled children into mainstream schooling.
إيه مدى النجاح بتاع إن إحنا ندخل الأطفال المعاقين في المدارس؟
So the model is quite successful, I would say, and I visited it myself in a couple of places around the country. But basically, there's just as an example, let's say also of how UNICEF works. We want to show the government is committed. We understand global best practice is to integrate children with disabilities into mainstream schooling. Prior to this, there was a sense that actually they should have special schools, but that's not what good practice tells us.
إنهم يخشوا جوه المجتمع نفسه يعني أو جوه المدارس نفسها.
Exactly.
ما يبقوش بقى segregated أو بعيد عن المدارس العادية.
بالضبط. Yeah.
ده قصدك. This is what you mean. Right?
That's what I mean. So. Okay. In these 400 to 500 schools, what we did is we did the basic infrastructural changes to ensure that a school has the infrastructure to receive children with disabilities. We did orientation for teachers on how to manage a classroom with 1 or 2 disabled children.
We're talking about physical disabilities, صح؟ احنا بنتكلم على الإعاقات الجسدية.
We're talking about any form of mild disability, physical or cognitive or motor.
Okay.
Yeah. So we orientate the teachers, we orientate the parents of the children with disabilities because they are nervous about sending their children to school because they might be bullied. Then we orientate the parents of the children who don't have disabilities because they are worried that the level of education might be brought down by having a disabled children in the classroom.
ازاي احنا بنحقق ده مع الفصول المتكدسة بالأطفال؟
The overcrowded classrooms is an issue, but no child has more right to an overcrowded classroom than any other child.
طبعا, but there is a challenge. في تحدي طبعا.
There is a challenge. Yeah, there's a challenge, but I wouldn't say solve that challenge and then we work on disabled children. No.
Okay.
Every child has the right to be in school regardless.
اللي أنا بس بحاول أقوله إن أنا طبعا متفق معاك إن طبعا كل طفل ليه الحرية وليه الحق إن هو يتعلم وإن هو يخش المدرسة وخاصة الأطفال ذوي الإعاقات. بس اللي بقول التحدي الأكبر بالنسبة لنا إن الأطفال في فصول مكدسة وعندهم إعاقات ده أكيد تحدي كبير.
It's a challenge, and that's the challenge that we have to work with. So we are piloting and demonstrating good practice based on the real context. We can't do good practice based on an ideal world where there's only 30 children per teacher. And indeed, you point out a significant challenge to the education system in general, which is that the ratio between teachers and Students is not good enough. Although having said that, you may be aware there's been a recent decision in government to increase by, I don't have the figure, it's over 100,000 teachers, which is excellent news.
كان قرار مجلس الوزراء ان احنا نكبر العدد. Yes.
Yeah. So that kind of work is what we do to make sure that children are in school and stay in school. And when you move to the adolescent age group, it's a different set of challenges. I mentioned them. Girls may drop out to get married, or because the parents don't value their education as much as they might value the boys' education. There may be vulnerability-related constraints that mean that boys or girls don't stay through their secondary education. They might need to help with family income. So those are a whole other set of issues which cannot be solved inside the education sector, but are a much broader set of challenges.
وده طبعا يعني بما انك اتكلمت على الفتيات، تمكين الفتيات، وده انا عارف ان ده مشروع من المشاريع المهمة بالنسبة لليونيسيف. اشتغلنا فيها ازاي او تعمل فيها ايه؟
Well, I want to answer that question by talking a little more broadly before we get to girls specifically. I want to talk about young people. So, one of the challenges that young people face, or the major challenge that young people face if you ask a young person, I've asked many, is the concern, let's say, about their immediate future, this transition, as we call it, from learning to earning, from secondary school into either tertiary education or a job, or secondary, tertiary, and then a job. That is a big challenge in this country and in any country. And we have, tens of millions of young people doing that transition. I would say the challenge for us is to bring us, means the community, the community of stakeholders, including government, is to bring together all those who participate in that transition to develop a vision together and then identify the gaps, what innovations are required, where are the funding gaps, and sort of bring that all together. And we've done that, as you may know, in this country under Shabab Balad, which is Generation Unlimited globally, which brings together the private sector, which has an integral role in this, the government, the UN, and the development partners, and young people themselves. So that is that's the broader picture, and there's still work to be done there. Now, when you get to girls specifically, they face additional challenges. So you probably know that if you look at the statistic of not in employment training or education, not in employment, education or training, the rate amongst girls is double the rate for boys. So, I think the national rate is around 30%, but for girls around 60%. So, girls face additional challenges. They are also growing up with very specific vulnerabilities. We know that early marriage is something that we need to continue to address.
الزواج المبكر من المشاكل الصعبة يعني.
Yeah, and then we also have female genital mutilation. These are two specific concerns. We have this girls empowerment program that you referred to, which is called the Girls Investment Framework, which is under the auspices of the First Lady, Intisar Sisi, and we work closely with the National Council for Women and National Council for Childhood and Motherhood on this girls empowerment work, which is called DAWI, and it's partnered up with UNFPA's
اسمه تاني؟
DAWI. Oh, and everyone gets slightly confused by that name. It's supposed to mean echo.
okay.
And
دوي يمكن دوي.
Well, there's
echo. اللي هو الصدى يعني.
Yes, reverberation or something like that. But and partners up with UNFPA's Noura under the auspices of this girls investment framework. The idea there is to work with girls and boys, so girls and their brothers, girls and their parents, girls and the community in which they live, to sort of talk through the challenges that girls face growing up. And they are, they're manifold. They can be specific to Egypt, or they can be those ones that girls face in any context. We talk those through. We have these circles where we have trained an excellent group of facilitators who are sort of part of the National Council for Child and Motherhood's pool of expertise to facilitate those discussions and help girls talk about them, be ready for them, find solutions to them, and then we sort of add some other life skills and digital skilling to that program. It's reached hundreds of thousands of girls, and online it's reached in the millions. So it's really, I'm really pleased with the reach, because in Egypt, if you don't reach millions, we're not going to change national indicators. There are some very valuable programs that reach much smaller numbers, but that's not good enough in Egypt.
أنا عندي سؤال بقى. هو دلوقتي بقالك في مصر 4 سنين، فإيه أكتر التحديات اللي واجهتك في تنفيذ المشروعات اللي هي الموجودة دلوقتي أو اللي احنا اتكلمنا عليها دلوقتي؟
I think if we look at sort of programmatic challenges where, as I said earlier on, our mandate is to ensure that every child is able to fulfill his or her rights, is that in Egypt we have a large number of migrants and refugees, many of whom are undocumented. And for us, that doesn't matter. A child is a child. It doesn't matter what bit of paper he has in his hands. And we need to make sure that those children also are integrated into the school system, have access to health, have access to protection, social protection. That's challenging. And I'm very, very sympathetic to the Egyptian government that is catering to its population, and this comes on top of that, and they don't necessarily have the resources for it. I've been very pleased that our dialogue with government on this issue, and it's not just UNICEF, the whole of the UN, has been very positive, and certainly from a public health perspective, we're able to ensure that migrants and refugees, regardless of documented status, have access to health services. We've been able to work with the Ministry of Education, who over the years has issued a waiver on a large number of nationalities so that they can also access the education system. But it's not enough, and it worries me as UNICEF because there are children who are slipping through the net, and we're not getting them. We're not able to fulfill their rights and their dreams. So that, for me, is a very challenging piece of this work here in Egypt.
طبعا أنا متفق معك جدا. أنا شايف طبعا أن ده حاجة من الحاجات أو من التحديات الكبيرة اللي بتواجه الأطفال اللي عايشين في مصر. طبعا ده بياخدنا الحديث عن الأطفال والأطفال المهاجرين هنا بياخدنا للموضوع بتاع أطفال غزة. يونيسف مصر أو اليونيسف في مصر عملت إيه علشان طبعا باعتبار إن إحنا دولة من دول الجوار، فساعدنا إحنا إزاي أطفال غزة؟
So it's a very good question, and I think it, I refer to my earlier comment where we have, let's say, strong presence in over 190 countries, and of course in State of Palestine as well. So whatever we do in Egypt is very much in collaboration with the rest of the UNICEF network, most notably UNICEF in State of Palestine and UNICEF in Gaza, where we have an office with staff. The situation in Gaza is catastrophic. It makes me very sad, and we're in it now. We have to hope for a solution that comes, because the only way a child can be safe in Gaza is if there is a ceasefire, if the conflict stops. Now, what have we done? Egypt has played a remarkable role in ensuring a humanitarian corridor of supplies and staff and services into Gaza, as you well know. UNICEF Egypt, for which I'm accountable, of course, has been instrumental in, let's say, setting up that humanitarian corridor and the logistics that UNICEF requires inside State of Palestine, inside Gaza, so that we can ensure that despite all the challenges, and there are many, that we can get supplies in. The other work that we need to be conscious of is that Palestinians who are leaving Gaza or who have left Gaza, once they are in Egypt, they become, let's say, one of my accountabilities directly. So apart from facilitating the humanitarian the children, of course, yes. The government of Egypt has responsibility, but I have an accountability, let's say.
Of course.
So in addition to the humanitarian corridor work, we also do, let's say, program work. Once they are here, just like any other child, we need to make sure that those children have access to health services, education, protection, psychosocial care, which is extremely important for children suffer from a conflict. But I want to, and we're doing that. We're doing that with our government partners and with Egyptian Red Crescent, and I must say I'm very pleased with that collaboration. But I want to make a point here, which is that from UNICEF perspective, from the Convention of the Rights of the Child, no child is more important than any other child.
أكيد.
And we have, of course, another big conflict on our border, which is Sudan. And the numbers there are shocking. We have, tens of millions of people who are suffering from food insecurity. We have millions of children who are malnourished, millions of children who are displaced and are undergoing terrible, terrible violations. And in the same way that we have done our best inside Egypt to support the cross-border response into Gaza, so have we done to support the cross-border response into Sudan. We have a strong office in Sudan, but at the border, I have some accountabilities. And so I think...
بالإضافة أن احنا عندنا لاجئين أطفال ونساء كتير.
Exactly. And in any displacement, 3/4 of the people will normally be women and children, half the population are women and half the population children. So you add that up together, it becomes 3/4. So that is, we are always there. And so in Sudan, when the Sudan crisis started, we provided support in the border area to the government, of course, and to the Egyptian Red Crescent. And then our challenge, let's say, over the longer term is integrating those refugees, these are, and those claiming asylum into the social service system here in Egypt. And I do appreciate as I said, the collaborative environment that the Egyptian government offers, but I also have to recognize the development partners. Many of them have really stepped up to provide that support because it is an international responsibility. Once a conflict erupts beyond its borders, it becomes an international responsibility. And so we all have our part to play.
من خلال النقاش بتاعنا واضح ان علاقه يونيسف بالحكومه المصريه علاقه قويه وفي نوع من الارتباط الدائم معاهم. فممكن نتكلم اكتر على طبيعه التعاون بين يونيسف والحكومه المصريه.
Yeah, as I said earlier, we are here at the invitation of government, and we are formed by the member states of the United Nations, of which Egypt is a, let's say, very active and appreciated member.
Yeah.
So Egypt has a stake in UNICEF as much as any other country. And then, of course, once we're in country, we are here at the behest of government. So it is incumbent, it is our mandate to support government systems to fulfill child rights. That is what we are here to do. So we work with a number of ministries and partners in government. We have, of course, the National Council for Childhood and Motherhood, as a sort of, which itself has a coordinating mandate in Egypt.
Okay.
And then all the line ministries, health, education, social solidarity, justice, and many others. Now, I was, frankly, before I arrived to take up this job, I was expecting to have to kind of use my elbows to be heard here, but that's not been the case. And what makes this job so satisfying, even if it's like hard work, is that the government values UNICEF. They value the United Nations, and they value the role of UNICEF. So when we are invited, and we are constantly to provide our opinion, to bring in global expertise, to put resources onto an issue, it's not for the look. It's because of the substance. The Egyptian government wants to meet its commitments to child rights. And they know that UNICEF is let's say, the global guarantor of child rights in every country. So I must say it's a pleasure to work, and I really mean that it's a pleasure to work with government in this country. And also when the government agrees, sometimes it takes a while to reach a conclusion on an issue, but when the government agrees to move something, it moves. And that is an amazing thing. When you have 40 million children, it means when you have a breakthrough on a certain issue, you change the lives of 40 million children.
طبعا. أنا عارف إن ده هيبقى آخر لقاء ليك كممثل يونيسف في مصر، وإن شاء الله هتنتقل إلى وفي ترقية فcongratulations. وطبعا هتنتقل إلى منصب جديد. فأنا أحب من هنا يعني بعد كل الحاجات اللي أنا سمعتها وكل الأنشطة اللي اتعملت بصفة شخصية وبالبودكاست، أنا بحب أشكرك على كل الجهود اللي عملتها للأطفال اللي عايشين في مصر، مش بس الأطفال المصريين. وبنتمنى لك مستقبل أو خطوة جديدة مهنية وقوية في المستقبل. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. I think I have to say at this point that it's going to be, for me, very sad when I do leave Egypt. I think the United Nations and UNICEF here is doing a tremendous job. Of course, I'm excited about my next post, but that doesn't mean I won't be very sad to leave this country and the 40 million children here that we are striving to serve.
فنتمنى إن نشوفك تاني في مصر.
You will see me again in Egypt. I came here first when I was a child, a teenager. I came back to study Arabic. I came back to work. I'm quite sure I'll be back again.
أنا حابب أسمع حاجة بسيطة عن جيت تعمل إيه هنا وإيه كان تجربتك لمصر. شفت مصر إزاي وشفت مصر دلوقتي.
In some ways, it's changed. In some ways, it hasn't. I came here first as a tourist with my family, many millions of people.
وتعلمت عربي صح؟
وبعدين
تعلمت عربي. أنت بتعرف تتكلم عربي شوية؟
بتكلم عربي. تخرجت باللغة العربية من جامعة من 25 سنة دلوقتي. So جينا جيت في التسعينات عشان دراسة. And that was a real pleasure. I was living on a student budget in a fairly local area, KitKat, precisely.
KitKat?
Yes.
In Baba.
And studying Arabic as part of my university degree. And I must say, I can't even tell you how much it's changed, because my life at the time was, if you're a student living in KitKat, and now I'm a diplomat living in Zamalek,
طبعا.
a little bit different.
فرق كتير.
But I do recognize the Cairo that I knew then. Of course, there has been tremendous change, and a lot of it very positive in terms of raising the standard of living of Egyptians. I'm a bit old school. I like the downtown vibes.
أنا سمعت برضو يعني بعض القصص انك بتحب تنزل وتلف في مصر وتروح المناطق الشعبية وتتعامل مع الطبقات الشعبية، فقول لنا عليها ديت.
Yeah, I enjoy. I think it's important, actually, even professionally, it's important to stay in touch with real people.
طبعا.
So, once in a while I go for a walk in Mbaba, just go and have tea and have a shisha, or I've been to the gym in Dar es Salaam, for example.
Dar es Salaam?
Yes.
دي منطقة.
It's not tough, it's real. It's real. It's full of real people with real life challenges, and I enjoy that. And I really enjoy the possibilities to talk to the people that we're serving, the children and the young people of this country. And the best way to do that, I think, is sort of off duty, but if you like, it's part of my work.
أنا كان عندي حق إن أنا بقول كده إنك متداخل قوي في الشعب، وعشت معاه وعشت مع مصر. عندك 18 سنة وعندك وبعد كده جيت كممثل كدبلوماسي، فواضح إن هي كانت تجربة غنية قوي إنك قعدت في مصر.
Yeah, I mean, I think for better or for worse, I love this country. Okay. It drives me crazy sometimes, but I love it. كلنا بالضبط. And but I will be very sorry to leave, because I have, let's say, invested my heart in this country, as I think you should, to do your job properly, but also because it's such a fascinating place. And I'll be very, very sorry to leave. But I leave with excellent memories, and I also leave feeling that I have made a contribution to UNICEF's work here and to the work of the United Nations, which I think is why I was here in the first place. So I leave sorry but happy as well.
واحنا كمان يعني هنفتقدك، بس مبسوطين على الفترة اللي قعدت فيها في مصر، وبنتمنى لك كل التوفيق، وشكرا انك شرفتنا النهارده. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.